Business, the show for just incredibly talented, professional, business, and artistic entrepreneurs. I'm your host, June Middleton. Our guests this evening are really four very interesting and dynamic entrepreneurs. They each have different businesses and each started those businesses differently, and they are just absolutely, well, I get excited when I talk about what they do, so I'm going to let them talk about what they do themselves. We have Shannon McDonald, who founded and is the principal of SM Consulting. Rachel Rose, an attorney from Houston, Texas. Thanks so much for coming. And we have Sydney Perry, founder and principal of Sydney Sweets. And then we have London-based Chet, Davdra, and he has a very interesting business as well. He's a principal of Analog Method. We will be discussing what it's like to be an entrepreneur. We will ask them about their businesses. They'll tell us about their businesses and what it's like to be in business for yourself. So welcome, all of you, to the show. It's so great to have you here. This is going to be fun. I love to talk about business. I really do. Shannon, so let's start with you. Tell us something about yourself.
Well, I consider myself a native New Yorker, but I did really grow up across the river. I feel like
Jersey?
That's right.
Okay. But that's okay. You're welcome here anytime.
Well, thank you. It's only a bridge or a swim away. I've lived in the city off and on for the last 17 years, and I do consider New York my home. I did spend a bit of time down south, actually, getting a business degree, and I really feel like that was the formative experience that's helped me both grow and expand as an individual, as a professional female, and specifically as an entrepreneur.
Now, what is your business?
Consulting, and it's really broad-ranged.
Explain that some. There was a time, and I'm sure you've all heard it, when if anybody said, I'm a consultant, it meant they were unemployed.
Right.
But
and you know what? It's very true, because I do recall when I first finished business school and I went to, I moved to Australia.
Now, where did you go to business school?
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt. Okay.
And I was working for a startup, an IT, like basically a WhatsApp of today.
Information technology.
An information technology mobile application service back before we had the smartphones that we have today. And I remembered calling home and my dad said, what are you doing? I said, I'm a consultant. He goes, consulting for what? But I agree with you. It can be an umbrella term for an awful lot of things. But what I personally like to do, I'm industry agnostic, meaning that I've worked in a number of different industries: health and beauty, health solutions, healthcare, information technology, media, and I've worked with micro-entrepreneurs.
Is it all right to mention, weren't you once with Weight Watchers?
I was, and I also worked with Avon. And in those two large organizations, I worked on very long-range strategic implementations that ran the gamut from anything from a marketing initiative to testing a marketing initiative internally to a longer-term integration with franchise projects and the like that required an awful lot of operational technology, training, marketing, L&D, which is learning and development, and sales integration. So it was a very...
Now, your background, though, you have an MBA. Mm-hmm. Is that what your training primarily came from to help you to start your business?
I would say my training came from two things. One, working in sales. I think once you've learned how to sell something, it's invigorating. There's an awful lot of no's before you get to a yes, but you build a thicker skin. And in the process of learning how to get to yes, which might seem cliche, you learn a lot about businesses and what their pain points are. Mm-hmm. And I think once you understand and can have a conversation in that frame of mind or in that voice, you're able to help people on a much more personal level and a much more intimate level. And I think it's helped me connect with entrepreneurs and heads of businesses that have problems.
Oh, well, this is great. This is really great. So I'd like to, Rachel, talk to you some. You're Houston, Texas, yes?
Yes, I am,
And
Jean.
you're an attorney.
I am. So we're 2 for 2 so far.
Yes,
Thank you.
Right. So Houston is your home, and thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're
from
very
Houston.
welcome.
That's terrific. Yeah.
So
What's the
Houston
weather
is
like?
my home,
Yeah,
and the weather, it's getting cooler, but it's nowhere near as cool as it is here.
It's not cool. It's cold. Absolutely cold. So how did you, now you went to Vanderbilt? Or
I did.
as
and
well.
yes.
That's where the two of you met, isn't it?
It is. It is. So I also obtained my MBA from Vanderbilt. And like Shannon, I had a broad focus in my education. And I have 2 minors, one in healthcare and one in entrepreneurship as well.
Now, at the same time, though, which came first? The law degree, the JD, or the MBA, or did you do them in the simultaneous program?
I did my MBA first, and then I went back to law school approximately 2 years later.
What made you decide to go back and get a law degree?
That wasn't the first time that I had considered law as a career. And with some macroeconomic changes and other items going on, I knew I always wanted to give people a voice who didn't have one. And so the conditions were ideal at that point in my life to go back and pursue that degree.
Now you ended up sort of like concentrating in healthcare, and because you do a lot of work with doctors, and you've written some really fascinating articles about hospitals and things like that. So how did you did have an interest, though, primarily in healthcare?
Yes,
when
I
you
did.
were in law school.
Yes, I had an interest in healthcare growing up. My father was in healthcare, and I thought I was going to. He was a hospital CEO. So I grew up around a healthcare family and thought I was going to be a doctor from the time I was 5 years old.
And then you visited the operating room.
No, I stayed in the operating room. I worked as an operating room aide during college.
Oh my gosh!
So
that was what made me decide to go into the law.
Was it really? Oh my gosh!
Visiting an operating room, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No, I loved it. And the nice thing about being a lawyer and focusing on both healthcare and securities law is that I get to meld my passion for helping people in 2 industries that I chose to educate myself in. And I've been able to effectuate change through my writings, which is
and then you
a good
get
feeling.
paid as well.
I do.
That's
Who
the
knew?
best part. As long as you can collect. Yes. We're going to talk about
exactly. Exactly. That's an excellent point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, Sydney, I miss the cake and the brownies, but I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome. And I do understand that your business partner is here as well.
Yes,
Jermaine.
he is. My husband is also my business partner.
Oh, that's wonderful. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So now, is New York your home?
Yes, we were both born and raised in Queens, New York.
Oh.
We actually grew up 5 minutes apart. Didn't know it until after we hooked up after college. So.
Oh my gosh!
Small
You
world.
went to Howard?
I did. I went to Howard University. I got my degree in accounting.
In accounting?
Yes, I did. And
Now, how did you make that transition?
Well, I graduated from college and I started working in public accounting, and aside from working the crazy hours that entailed, my release was coming home and baking. I just always loved to bake. I grew up in a house where my mom baked everything from scratch since we were born, so it's just what I enjoy doing.
That's interesting because our director is also a baker.
Yes,
and
okay.
he often brings sweets to the show
Nice.
for our guests. So I understand completely because he's also an accountant.
That's very funny.
Yeah. So now you would come home from work and to just sort of like...
It was just fun for me. It was just something I enjoyed doing. I would bake things and I would just
what
give
did
them
you start
away.
with?
cakes, cookies, brownies. That's how it
Do you follow
started.
recipes?
I would follow recipes that my mom had. She had this huge old red cookbook where the pages were falling out, and I would just flip through it and find stuff and
still
try
have
it.
a few of those.
Yeah, yeah. You don't find cookbooks like that anymore. You have to know somebody with one.
Right. Yeah.
And I would just make things and give them to neighbors, to my parents' friends. And eventually people started asking me, can I make them things, and offering to pay for it. And that's when the light kind of went off in my head, like, I think I have something here. And I just built from there.
Oh, gee. And now it's a thriving business for you.
Yes, now it's a thriving business.
And at least you can keep your own books.
Yes. That helps. But, you know, at a certain point, you do have to hire somebody else to take care of those things so you can focus on the main part of your business.
An issue that many entrepreneurs don't think about.
Yeah.
And I want to have a discussion a bit about that as well. So this is, I'm glad you brought that point up. And I'd like to talk to Chet. Chet, welcome. Welcome. It's so nice to have you here. Now, you are based in London and New York, yes?
Yes. So born and raised in London. Schooled in London, and I've been in New
London
York.
School of Economics, or
No, I actually went to my actual undergraduate was aeronautical engineering. So,
engineering.
Yes, it was aeronautical engineering. I graduated from there and then decided to go into mobile communication systems. And then I took on a PhD, partially was lecturing, and then I think I just sort of decided to give it up after a while.
Got bored?
Yeah, I thought I'll start working. So I ended up in technology, basically. I worked as a consultant, so I was very hands-on back in London. Did the consultancy gig for about 8 years, and then had an opportunity to come to New York and acquire a business called Analog Method.
Now, what's the name of your firm?
Analog Method.
Now, what does that mean?
So
analog is composed to digital?
Yeah, so the thinking behind the name is that human beings are analog. Obviously, we think like analog, so it's more about...
You mean we think on curves?
Yes. Yeah, we think on curves rather than digital. Humans aren't about ones and zeros. So the business was called Analog Method based on the fact that obviously even though we're a tech company and we deal with websites and apps and mobiles and all the cool techie things, it relates to humans at the end of the day. You know, the business is there for humans and it's not there for machines. So we wanted to give a feel on that.
So what exactly do you do with the business? I mean, how do you relate to the curvy people?
So Analog Method primarily takes requirements from people, basically. So if there's an issue, if there's something that you're having problems with, we use technology to solve those issues and problems, basically.
You help to build an infrastructure, so to speak, for a business, a budding business, or an existing business, to help them function so they can concentrate more on their business.
Yeah, so rather than, I mean, it's not just necessarily infrastructure, it could be websites, it could be apps, it could be devices, it could be systems as well. So it could be anything along the realms.
Now, you have another business that has to do with, is this the business that you're describing? So you work with entrepreneurs as well?
Right, so I do have a secondary business which we've literally launched it about 6 months ago. It's called,
congratulations.
Thank you. It's called 1337 Labs, and where it is also a tech company, but it's actually focused for entrepreneurs. So anyone who has an idea that doesn't know what to do with it or how to get it built, they basically come to us and we basically vet their idea out. We help them build it at a very, very low cost, and then we basically help them get into market. And then if they want help with funding, we can help them with funding. And if they want us to...
we're going to talk about that some too. That's very, very interesting. And do you deal with patents?
Yes, we deal with patents as well.
Have you two talked?
We're going to be talking. We are going to be talking. We are going to be talking about patents.
Now, you and Shannon, though, collaborate on some projects too, don't you?
Yes, we do. So Shannon is my sort of business partner, basically, where she will she does all the relationship work, and I do all the back end building.
Okay, it's terrific. So, this is wonderful. Well, you have set such a wonderful background now for generally talking about business and how how painful it is and how rewarding it can be, and at the same time what everyone has to go through in order to start a business. And what I'd like to do is kind of like address a few topics about starting a business, and please just I'd like to hear your strong opinions, because I'm sure you have them. And like, for example, did anybody write a business plan before starting?
Yes.
The lawyer.
It's the minor in entrepreneurship.
Isn't that funny? I had another lawyer on the show and asked the same question. It was only the lawyer out of 4 people.
But I might add that I help write business plans for other businesses, as does Chet, and we look at the business plans and say, where's the money, you know?
So it's like an accountant saying, I'll help you with your taxes, but I'm not paying mine.
Pretty much.
Right. The shoemaker who never repairs his own shoes. Right. And did you write a business plan, or did you just start putting stuff in the oven?
Well, I would say I started putting stuff in the oven first. And no,
thinking about the plan.
I think about the plan. I feel like we think about the plan nonstop. We're always running the plan through our head. But to actually write out the full booklet, no, we did not.
I think it's a genuine issue because you're so hands-on thinking about your business, no matter what business you're in as an entrepreneur, that to put pen on paper, and then constantly the pen on paper is always evolving.
So you're constantly recalibrating.
You're recalibrating accordingly, and especially with the tech business, you know, it's very difficult to write a business plan about the fact that you build websites and you build mobiles, or the fact that, you know,
Let's say it's challenging, because it's not impossible. You can write a business plan about building mousetraps.
Yeah.
Right. Really. I mean, because all it is a roadmap.
Right.
It's just telling you where you're going and how you're going to get there. And hopefully you can accomplish something when you do arrive.
But you know, it's interesting because I agree with you. A business plan, in Business School 101, I think first class, first semester was how to write a business plan, and I think it was a fantastic exercise. But interestingly, as your business evolves, and as your team evolves, and as the influencers change and come in and out of the picture, the dynamics change, and you get some people that are micro-oriented on details, and you're saying, they say, what about this? And they forget that the business plan actually is just a roadmap. I almost feel like the business plan is the point in which you peel out different projects to execute on, and the projects are going to have the detailed requirements to execute on. But what an investor is looking at is different than somebody than an IT person or a marketing person. Everybody comes with their own biases to a certain.
Yeah, this is true, which I'd like to just touch on this as well. I mean, now the 4 major issues, and this is the area that I deal in all the time. In fact, I teach a course to attorneys in telling them how to start a law practice. And getting them to write a business plan is kind of tedious and painful, but we sort of like touch on it. And what we do is talk about 4 major issues. For example, you have a product. What is your product going to be, or what is your service going to be? Do you have any money to get started with? Where are your clients? Who are your clients? How do you get your clients? How do you market to your clients? And then how do you actually manage your business? So in thinking of those areas, what are the major problems that you think startup businesses run into?
I think from a tech perspective, and a lot of tech companies go through this at the start. It's the initiation of engaging new business, because what happens is with tech businesses, a lot of the times you can't really go out on the web and market, because you're like a law firm or an accounting firm, or even a business that does cakes. You know, there's a niche there with those businesses. But with something like a tech business, every other shop now is a tech business, technically speaking. So it's all about personal relationships, and it's all about, you know, proving that you can deliver a particular good. You have tangible goods, and services unfortunately aren't tangible, so it's very hard to visualize when someone comes up to you and says, I want a website built, and you say to them, well, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. They'll look at you and go, well, why so much? And what they don't realize is that, you know, you can go out and get these third-party products nowadays where, you know, they'll build your website for a very, very low cost amount.
Or you can do it yourself.
You can do it yourself as well, but what you're getting is a company which is actually backing your website up, not just telling you what your website should look like, but how it should function, how and what the website should include.
Okay,
and what it
which brings
include.
up a point to me that I deal with in talking to my clients all the time. They seem to feel that the website is the magic bullet. All I need to do is build it and they shall come.
No.
But it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't
and
work like that.
why do people still seem to feel, so many startups seem to feel that we have to have a website, we have to have interactive animation and all this kind of stuff?
I think it's important to have a website, yes, because it's a presence. It's the same thing as giving out your business card. You know, we used to give out your business cards because that was the only way your word could get around. Now it's a point of access which everyone has access to, which is the internet. So the website is important, but there's no misleading guidance, and anyone in their right mind will tell you that the website is only a presence. It's not something that's going to generate your business. You have to work on the website. You have to get the SEOs up. You have to make sure your main
search engine optimization.
Everybody doesn't know. SEO, search engine optimization,
Yes.
which means that your name should bubble up to the top if
Yes.
somebody puts some keywords in.
That's correct, yes. So the point is that if you have a website, you have to grow your website, you have to look after it, and you have to grow it at the same time. It's not a case of you do a website and you let it run. And a lot of businesses will just do that, where they'll have a website and they won't do anything with it.
Well, because it doesn't really bring them any revenue. And they discover this in a lot of instances after they have started. So, which brings us to the next point about what the website is supposed to accomplish, bringing in funds, bringing in business, bringing in clients. Would you recommend, I mean, the hottest thing on the block right now is crowdfunding.
Yes.
And everybody's looking to either go, Indiegogo or CrowdFundMe or whatever. Kickstarter, I believe, is at the top of the list for getting people to make a contribution as such to your business. Have any of you had experience with crowdfunding or used it? Or
I've written on it.
have you?
I have.
What was your take? What was your feeling?
First, it's not appropriate in all instances, and it depends on the forum that you're using it for. So initially, a lot of not-for-profits or very small entities were using it. Basically, they would use crowdsourcing, which is the first step, the soliciting of ideas and so forth, almost like a chat room, almost a modern-day term for a chat room, to solicit ideas. Unfortunately, there's potential risk in that, because if you gain ideas, then who has credit for that? Are there patents, royalties, blah, 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 down the line that they could be entitled to? That's the first thing. The second thing, and we talked about security before the show, is the intersection of risk and putting certain types of sensitive information in that part. Transitioning that to crowdfunding, one area is is it a publicly traded company or one that's fits within the description of the New Jobs Act? If it does, then you really have to be very careful as to the protocols and procedures that are involved with that, and whether or not it's healthcare, for example, because other laws could be implicated.
Which brings us to another interesting point. You mentioned for protocol and things about whether or not it's legal and for investing. I mean, there are other ways that people use to raise money. I mean, you have your venture capitalists, you have the banks, which you have the banks. And you have angels. And in a lot of instances, I mean, what did you use to get started? Did you go into your own pocket or your parents' pocket?
Yes,
Whose
actually,
pockets
that is what we did. To get the doors open on our first bakery, we used our savings and we got loans from our family. We have loans from our parents and from our brothers and sisters. And then we also have family just invest things, like we needed a 20-gallon mixer. Somebody bought it for us because they just believed in what we were trying to do. So really, our first location was sourced from ourselves and from our family. And initially, I feel like a lot of people that are starting out a small business, you have in your mind that there are all these small business loans that are going to be so easy to access. And I find that they're just not.
They're not actually.
They're just not.
I wanted to comment on that. Actually, a fellow Columbia alum, she used to teach classes on small business associations and how to help entrepreneurs secure small business loans. I think post 2007, 2008, there was a huge removal of that of that capital that really changed the access and probably opened up the gateway for your Kickstarters, for kind of the evangelization.
Yeah, because they're not that old.
No, they're babies. I mean, in internet terms, they're they've been around, but they're not that old.
I think
This is true. This is true. And but believe it or not, it's just getting interesting. But we're almost out of time. and before though we close, I mean, I just want to thank you all for being here. We have so much more to talk about. We have to do this again because I didn't get to half of the things that I want to ask you about and the experiences that you've had in starting, running, and surviving in your own business, which often, unfortunately for a lot of businesses, do not last very long. But you've given encouragement to others and you made other people realize that there's a lot more to than just putting the key in the door and turning it and opening it up. You have to be able to switch on the lights, which means somebody has to pay for something. So this is what it's all about, but it's particularly interesting to have people encouraged to know, particularly older Americans and older people in the country and in London as well, that if the job market is tough, which it is, start your own business.
Be resourceful.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm sure that you have inspired others with your comments. So, thank you again for being here. Thank you for Channing in the control room. Thank you to Pep C. also, who's helped us. Thank you to my son Ed, our director, and a very, very special thanks to Rich here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network for making this show possible. You have been watching Minding Your Business, the show for truly interesting and fascinating professional and business entrepreneurs. And I just look forward to always having the opportunity to talk to you. So in the time that we have left, which isn't very much, about a minute, I'd like very much to find out what your advice is, and also to let people know you've been watching Minding Your Business. See yourself where you want to be. Take the giant step that the four of you were willing to take. And I'm your host, June Middleton. Join us again, please, next time in the minute and a half or less than a minute that we have left. What's your advice to anyone who wants to start a business?
Take the leap and save for a rainy day, and save for longer rainy days, more rainy days than you expect to have.
You're going to have lots of rainy days. Yeah. Your feeling?
Have a roadmap, know what your risks are, and then have a fallback plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say be prepared to do more than whatever your business is. Like, I make cakes, but I also have to do marketing. I also have to help out with my accounting. Just be prepared.
And I have to take out the trash.
Right, exactly.
You know?
I think the biggest one is learn from everyone. No matter what your business is, you'll learn even from a child, and you learn from someone else that doesn't have nothing to do with your business. That's the most important thing.
At the same time, though, be careful with whose advice.